They cross the line because they believe you won't enforce it. They test you because they smell weakness. That's the nature of people. They push, they probe, they calculate. And if you hesitate even once, you've given them the map of your soul. From that moment, you're no longer the ruler of yourself. You're a man on lease. But hear this. Mercy without power is suicide. Respect is never given. It's engineered. Machiavelli knew it. The throne is not protected by hope or goodwill, but by the cold edge of discipline. You don't win by shouting. You don't win by explaining. You win by freezing the room with silence, by making one decision that slices deeper than 1,000 words. Understand. When they disrespect you, they are not just mocking you. They are studying you. They are measuring the distance between your words and your actions, and if they find a gap, they own you. So what must you become? Ice. The kind of ice that burns, the kind of silence that suffocates, the kind of presence that makes people lower their tone without you saying a word. Cold enough that when they cross the line, they know instantly. It was their last mistake. This is not anger. This is not revenge. This is strategy. You are not emotional. You are absolute. The line is law, and the law does not tremble. Remember this. Burn it into your mind. A man without cold boundaries is already conquered. Now type this in the comments and make it your law. I am untouchable. I am the line. And stay with me, because you're about to learn Machiavelli's coldest response when the world dares to step over your edge. They crossed the line because they thought you wouldn't enforce it. That was their mistake, and your silence up until now has been your weakness. But today, that weakness dies. Today, you learn a law colder than steel. Machiavelli himself said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Why? Because fear respects boundaries. Love alone does not. Understand this. People don't test you by accident. They test you because power is always up for negotiation. Every insult, every disrespect, every betrayal, it's not just an attack, it's a probe. They're searching for your breaking point, your hesitation, the place where your words stop and your spine bends. And once they find it, you're no longer the master of yourself. You're their property. The Machiavellian law is simple. Never let them think the line is negotiable. That's why your response must be colder than ice, not anger, not emotion. Emotion exposes weakness. Coldness terrifies because it has no heartbeat. When you respond without heat, you show them something few men possess: control. So here is your weapon. I don't argue, I adjust access. That's it, one sentence. Delivered with a calm tone that freezes the air. No debate, no over-explanation, no defense. You strip them of what they value: your time, your presence, your attention. And that punishment cuts deeper than rage ever could. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must act like both the lion and the fox. The lion enforces with power. The fox withdraws with cunning. Together, they form a strategy no enemy can escape. That is you now. Write this in the comments so it brands itself into your psychology. I don't argue, I adjust access. Say it, own it, live it. Because the moment you master this response, you will stop bleeding power. You will become untouchable. Silence is not weakness. It is not retreat. It is a blade sharper than speech, and most men are too afraid to wield it. They feel the urge to defend, to explain, to shout back. But Machiavelli understood this truth. The moment you explain, you admit the other has the right to question. The moment you argue, you step onto their stage, and when you play on their terms, you've already lost. Listen closely. Silence is not empty. Silence is pressure. It creates unease, discomfort, paranoia. People cannot sit inside it without exposing themselves. They begin to talk, to justify, to reveal their weakness, while you remain still, like the executioner who hasn't yet raised his hand. This is why silence terrifies. It shifts the power dynamic instantly. They wonder, what is he thinking? What will he do? Did I go too far? And in that uncertainty, they crumble. Think of Machiavelli's fox. The fox doesn't bark to warn its enemies. It observes. It waits. It lets the opponent walk straight into the trap. Your silence is that trap. It is the invisible rope tightening around the throat of those who cross the line. The rule is simple. When disrespected, do not rush to react. Let the silence fall like winter frost. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5. Hold their eyes if you must, but do not move, do not speak. Let them squirm in the weight of their own miscalculation. In that silence, they feel your law. They see their mistake without you spelling it out. And when you finally do speak, your words will land like hammer strikes. Few, deliberate, final. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be both feared and respected, and nothing commands both like controlled silence. Fear comes from unpredictability. Respect comes from discipline. Silence delivers both. It shows you are not a man enslaved by impulse. You are a man who decides when and how reality moves. Do you want practical power? Here it is. First, when insulted, say nothing. Let silence be the answer. Second, if you must speak, keep it under 7 words. Cold, sharp, final, not acceptable. That ends here, nothing more. Third, withdraw. Cut the conversation. Adjust access. Leave them trapped inside the echo of their own disrespect. This is not passive, it's calculated warfare. While they scream, you conserve energy. While they burn, you grow colder. And when you finally move, it is decisive. Burn this into your mind. Silence is not absence. It is dominance without effort. Now type this in the comments to prove you've absorbed it. My silence is power. Let it echo back at you so the lesson stays permanent. This is the second law. You don't chase respect, you command it through the coldest weapon of all, silence. Stay with me, because in part 3, I'll show you how to turn your boundaries into an aura, a shield so strong they won't dare cross the line again. Power is not only in what you say or do, it is in what people expect from you before you even move. That expectation, crafted, sharpened, and enforced, is your aura. And Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. A ruler is not respected because he speaks loudly, but because the air around him warns, there are limits you do not cross. Let me make this brutally clear. If your boundaries only appear when someone disrespects you, you are already late. A true man of power carries his standards like armor. People feel them in the way you speak, in the way you sit, in the way you withhold. They are never guessing whether you'll tolerate disrespect. They know before they even try. This is the Machiavellian law. Make your boundaries visible without declaring them. When a man has to constantly explain his limits, it means no one believes he has any. But when your aura is cold, steady, immovable, no one dares test it. Why? Because they can feel the consequences radiating from you. Think of a fortress. The strongest castles didn't need to be attacked daily. Their very presence, walls towering, gates locked, guards watching, was enough to keep invaders at bay. Your aura is that fortress. It says, I won't argue, I won't beg. Cross me, and you will lose access to the kingdom I built. Now, how do you forge this aura? First, precision in standards. You decide once what you accept and what you don't, and you never bend. This is law. Second, consistency. You enforce the same rule every time, no matter who it is. Friend, stranger, family. It doesn't matter. Your consistency is what builds your reputation. Third, minimal words, maximum enforcement. Don't announce, don't warn, act. And let people learn your rules through consequence, not lecture. Machiavelli wrote, men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel. People see how you carry yourself before they ever experience your enforcement. This is why your aura must always broadcast cold control, because it teaches them what will happen if they try. And here's the deeper psychology. People respect what they fear losing. When you enforce your boundaries, you are teaching them the value of access to you. You become scarce, you become expensive, and in power, scarcity creates respect faster than generosity ever could. Say this aloud, then write it in the comments so it burns into your mind. My boundaries are law. Understand, when your aura is set, you no longer need to constantly defend yourself. Your presence defends itself, your silence enforces itself, and those who cross the line will feel the cost before you even raise your hand. This is the fortress effect. Build it, guard it, become it. Machiavelli wrote, "Injuries should be done all at once, so that being tasted less, they offend less. Benefits should be granted little by little, so that they may be better enjoyed." This is not cruelty, it's strategy. If someone crosses the line and you let them slide, you've declared weakness. If you punish them emotionally, you've declared instability. But if you punish them coldly, cleanly, decisively, you've declared law. Understand this. People respect pain more than words. They don't remember your speeches. They remember the day they touched the fire and got burned. That is why punishment is necessary, not to satisfy your anger, but to engrave your boundaries into their memory. But here is the Machiavellian twist. Your punishment must always be calculated. You never punish to vent, you punish to teach, and you punish once so thoroughly they never consider testing you again. There are three principles: speed, precision, and finality. Let me explain them separately. The first is speed. Delay kills authority. When someone disrespects you, respond quickly. If you wait, they think you had to gather courage. Swift action proves it was instinct. It shows the boundary was always active. On second, precision. Don't overdo it. Too much punishment looks desperate. Too little looks weak. Strike exactly where it hurts most. Their access, their privileges, their closeness to you. Remember, withdrawal of favor is often more devastating than confrontation. And third one is finality. Don't drag it out. Don't nag. Don't explain. One move, clean and cold, then silence. Let them sit in the emptiness you've created. That silence will punish them more than any lecture ever could. Consider a king. If he must execute, he does it swiftly, publicly, and then he moves on. He does not rant, he does not explain, he does not repeat. The act speaks for him. The people learn the lesson, and life continues. This is what you must embody. Do not think punishment always means rage or violence. No. In modern power, the coldest punishments are psychological: exclusion, indifference, and removal of value. Nothing cuts deeper than showing someone they are no longer relevant in your world. That is the execution they will never forget. And here's the hidden benefit. Punishment strengthens your aura. When people witness that you enforce without hesitation, they calibrate themselves. They learn not to test you. The lesson spreads. Fear does the work for you. Say this now, and write it in the comments. I punish once, I punish cold. That is your creed. That is how you command respect without endless battles. Remember, Machiavelli was clear. Men must either be crushed or left alone. Anything in between breeds revenge. So when you strike, do not scratch, cut deep. Leave the mark permanent. This is the art of calculated punishment. Cold, final, untouchable. Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely solely on presence, because constant exposure breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds contempt. The same law applies to you. If you are always accessible, always available, always present, your value declines. But when you withdraw, when you vanish on your own terms, you weaponize absence. You turn silence into hunger. You turn distance into dominance. Understand this. Absence is not retreat. It is strategy. To disappear is to force the world to measure what life feels like without you. And most men will never do it because they fear being forgotten. But that fear is weakness. The powerful know the opposite truth. Scarcity is the mother of value. Think of fire. If it burns constantly, people grow numb to its warmth. But when it vanishes, the cold rushes in, and only then do they realize what they've lost. That is what your absence does. It creates a void, and in that void, respect multiplies. Here's the Machiavellian principle. Control your presence like a weapon. Appear rarely, appear decisively, appear only when it serves your power. Then withdraw before they consume too much of you. Your scarcity makes you unforgettable. Your absence turns whispers into legends. There are 3 tactics of absence. First, the sudden withdrawal. When someone disrespects your presence, vanish completely. No warnings, no drawn-out speeches, just gone. The silence becomes unbearable, and they're left with nothing but their own reflection of guilt and loss. Secondly, the calculated gap. Even with allies, friends, or followers, you create space. You disappear long enough for them to feel the weight of your distance, then reappear stronger, sharper, colder. Every return feels like an event, and than the permanent absence. When a boundary is destroyed beyond repair, you leave forever. No second chances, no explanations, just permanent exile. This final absence becomes the ultimate punishment because it tells them, you are no longer relevant in the kingdom I built. Machiavelli wrote that rulers must learn to be both loved and feared. Absence combines both. It creates fear of losing you again and gratitude when you return. That duality is power. That duality makes you unforgettable. Never explain your disappearance. Explanations weaken the effect. Let them invent stories. Let them wonder where you went, why you vanished, and what you're planning. That mystery keeps your name alive longer than your presence ever could. Say this aloud, then write it in the comments. My absence is my power. When you engrave this into your mind, you will stop begging for attention and start commanding it effortlessly. Remember, the world craves what it cannot have. Your absence teaches them your worth in ways words never could. This is the Machiavellian art of vanishing, cold, strategic, unforgettable. Machiavelli's law is brutal, yet eternal. It is much safer to be feared than loved. Why? Because love rests on emotions that shift like sand. Fear rests on memory, and memory burns deep. When people fear crossing you, they regulate themselves. You don't need to chase respect. You don't need to beg for loyalty. Fear does the policing for you, but listen carefully. There is a difference between chaotic fear and engineered fear. Chaotic fear breeds rebellion. Engineered fear breeds obedience. A weak man tries to terrify with shouting, with rage, with empty threats. A powerful man terrifies with calm inevitability. His enemies know that crossing him will cost them everything, not because he screams, but because he doesn't need to. Fear is built through 3 pillars: consistency, unpredictability, and consequence. People must know that your boundaries are law. Every violation is met with enforcement, no exceptions. This consistency is what makes them fear trying, because they know the outcome before they even test you. While your standards remain consistent, your methods remain fluid. They never quite know how you'll respond. Sometimes you withdraw, sometimes you cut access, sometimes you punish openly. This uncertainty keeps them off balance, forcing them to overthink before daring to disrespect. Fear is not created by words, it is created by cost. When you punish, punish in ways that leave marks, not necessarily physical, but psychological. Remove privileges, remove access, remove trust. These consequences etch themselves into memory, and memory is where fear lives. Machiavelli compared rulers to lions and foxes. The lion creates fear through force. The fox creates fear through cunning. To master fear, you must be both. The lion ensures no one doubts your ability to strike. The fox ensures they never see the strike coming. Together, they create an aura where people behave before you even speak. Understand this: engineered fear is quiet. You don't announce it. You don't brag about it. It builds itself through the weight of your past actions. People will whisper about you, exaggerate your reactions, and warn others not to cross you. That whisper network becomes your shield. Here's the coldest truth. Fear makes people remember you longer than kindness ever will. A gift is forgotten in weeks. A punishment is remembered for years. And when engineered properly, that fear doesn't turn into hatred, it turns into respect wrapped in caution. Write this in the comments so it burns into your psychology. My fear commands respect. When you master this law, you won't need to raise your voice. Your aura will do the speaking. And those who once tested you will step carefully, knowing one misstep could end their access to you forever. This is the Machiavellian mastery of fear. Engineered, quiet, permanent. Power dies the moment you allow everyone to touch it. Familiarity destroys respect. Overexposure kills authority. Machiavelli knew this when he wrote that a ruler must never let himself be too common, too reachable, too ordinary. A leader who blends in with the crowd becomes part of it, and the crowd never bows to itself. Understand this. Distance is not weakness. Distance is elevation. It creates an invisible shield, a gap between you and the world that forces others to look up instead of across. That gap is where respect is born. Psychological distance means you are present, but never fully available. People can see you, but they cannot easily reach you. They can interact with you, but they cannot predict you. You belong to no one, yet everyone feels the weight of your presence. That separation makes you untouchable. There are 3 ways to enforce psychological distance. First is rarity of access. Do not be everywhere. Do not answer every call, every message, every request. Scarcity creates value. The more they see you, the more ordinary you appear. The less they see you, the more legendary you become. Second is controlled disclosure. Never reveal everything. Keep parts of your mind, your plans, your emotions locked away. Mystery is gravity. It pulls respect from those who cannot quite read you. Machiavelli taught that men judge more by the eye than the hand. Show only what strengthens your aura. Hide the rest. And third way is measured presence. When you do appear, make it deliberate. Every move calculated, every word weighted. You become the man who wastes nothing. People learn that when you show up, it matters, and when you leave, they feel the cold gap you've created. Think of kings and generals. They did not walk among the crowd daily. Their distance was their crown. It made their words echo louder, their silence hit harder, their presence command more fear. The same principle applies to you. If you want to command power in modern life, you cannot be another face in the swarm. You must become the figure who stands apart. Here is the paradox. Distance creates closeness. When people cannot have you, they crave you. When they cannot predict you, they respect you. And when they cannot touch you, they fear losing what little of you they already have. That is psychological distance. It bends minds without effort. Say this now, then write it in the comments. My distance is my shield. Burn it into your mind, because when you enforce psychological distance, you stop bleeding energy into everyone. You stop diluting your value, you stop being accessible, and you start being untouchable. This is not arrogance, it is law. The law of kings, the law of predators, the law of power. Machiavelli taught that appearances are stronger than reality because most men do not search for truth, they settle for the surface. A ruler's survival depends less on what he is and more on what people believe him to be. This is the law of reputation, and if you ignore it, you will spend your life explaining yourself to those who've already decided you are weak. Reputation is power you do not have to lift. It walks ahead of you, clearing paths, silencing opposition, bending respect before you even enter the room. The powerful understand this. You don't fight every battle, you let your name do the fighting for you. But here's the cold truth. Reputation is not built by chance. It is engineered. Every move, every silence, every punishment, every boundary you enforce, these become bricks in the fortress of your image. And when you build it well, your reputation becomes more feared than your presence. There are 3 laws of Machiavellian reputation. First is, choose your image. Decide what you want to be known for. Ruthlessness, discipline, precision, control. Do not scatter signals. The world remembers patterns, not chaos. Machiavelli said it clearly. Men in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands, for everyone can see, but few can feel. Craft what they see. Second is, guard it ruthlessly. Your reputation is more valuable than money. If someone stains it, you cannot sit idle. Respond swiftly. If disrespected, enforce. If slandered, counter with results so sharp that the lie looks laughable. Guard your name like a crown, because it is one. And third is, leverage the whisper network. The most powerful reputations are not shouted, they are whispered. People should speak of your coldness, your consistency, your silence, your punishments, your absence. Every action must feed the myth. Let others tell the story you carefully designed. Think of Caesar, Alexander, or Machiavelli's princes. Their enemies feared their name before they even saw their armies. That is the mark of true power. To win battles without lifting a sword because your reputation has already conquered the field. And here is the psychology. A strong reputation saves energy. When people expect strength from you, they behave accordingly. They hesitate before challenging. They measure their tone before speaking. They regulate themselves. That is power without effort. But remember, the same law cuts both ways. A weak reputation destroys you before the first move. If people see you as soft, emotional, unreliable, you are finished before you begin. So decide now, what will they whisper about you when you leave the room? What legend will follow your name when you are not there to defend it? Say this in the comments. My name is my weapon. Repeat it, because once your reputation is engineered cold and sharp, it will do what presence alone never could. Command fear, respect, and obedience without you lifting a finger. Machiavelli warned rulers never to show the full weight of their hand. Power that looks too obvious becomes resented. Power that hides behind the curtain becomes permanent. This is the law of invisible control, to bend others without them realizing they've been bent, to lead their steps while they swear they're walking freely. Understand this, most people resist force, but they yield to guidance they believe was their own choice. The greatest rulers, generals, and kings did not chain their subjects. They engineered decisions. They planted seeds in silence, shaped the environment, and made men walk into obedience willingly. This is not manipulation. It is mastery. Never argue inside someone else's frame. Redefine the conversation before it begins. The first voice to set the context often wins. If you define the battlefield, they fight on your terms and lose without knowing why. Instead of commanding, present limited choices both lead to your desired outcome. They believe they've chosen freely while you've controlled the path. A master never says, do this. He says, would you prefer A or B? Both are victory. Sometimes silence, sometimes absence, sometimes small hints of disapproval. Rarely direct confrontation. People fear open control, but they adapt naturally to subtle shifts. When they feel the consequence without you raising your voice, they regulate themselves. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are driven by 2 principal impulses, either by love or by fear. Add a third, need. Make yourself the source of something they value: knowledge, opportunity, access, even stability. When their survival leans on you, you control them without a word. Think of the puppet master. The strings are thin, invisible from a distance. The puppet believes it is moving on its own, but the master decides every step. That is invisible control. The less they see your hand, the longer they obey. And here's the psychology. People hate being ruled, but they love being guided. They resist domination, but they crave leadership. Invisible control makes you look less like a tyrant, more like a necessity. They will even thank you for it. But remember, this art requires cold patience. Do not rush to show dominance. Do not brag about your influence. Let it seep in silently. The ones who scream for credit are amateurs. The ones who disappear while pulling the strings, those are kings. Say this now, then write it in the comments. I move the strings unseen. Burn it in, because once you master invisible control, your power becomes untouchable. They will resist shadows while bowing to your silence. Machiavelli warned rulers that the greatest danger is being discarded, used, then replaced, then forgotten. Power is not secure until you make yourself essential. If they can live without you, they will. If they can replace you, they will. But if you become a force they cannot remove without collapsing their own stability, you are untouchable. This is the final law. Become irreplaceable. Understand this truth. Men chase attention, but kings chase necessity. Attention fades. Necessity endures. Machiavelli wrote that wise rulers make themselves the cornerstone of the state, the one brick that holds the structure together. Remove that brick and the building falls. You must become that brick. Cold, fixed, unmovable. How? 3 Machiavellian strategies. First strategy is control what they value. Whether it is knowledge, resources, opportunities, or discipline, you must hold something they depend on. Do not scatter yourself chasing approval. Instead, master one domain so completely that removing you is unthinkable. Second strategy is withdraw at key moments. Nothing reminds people of your worth like your absence. When you step back, the gaps in strength, direction, or influence become visible. When you return, your value is undeniable. This cycle engraves the truth. They need you more than you need them. And the third strategy is fuse fear and respect. Respect makes them admire you. Fear makes them avoid crossing you. But together, they create reliance. They may envy you, they may whisper about you, but they will not move against you. Because deep down, they know losing you costs them more than keeping you close. And here's the coldest truth. Being liked is optional. Being needed is non-negotiable. Those who are liked are temporary. Those who are needed are permanent. Think of Machiavelli's prince. He did not seek applause. He sought leverage. He understood that love fades, alliances shift, but necessity binds. If people wake up tomorrow and realize they cannot function without you, then your throne is secure. That is the crown of cold power. This is where all the laws come together. The line, the silence, the aura, the punishment, the absence, the fear, the distance, the reputation, the invisible control, all of it was to build this final outcome, irreplaceability. Once you achieve it, you are not just respected, you are embedded into their structure. Remove you, and the system collapses. That is true sovereignty. Say this now, then write it in the comments. I am irreplaceable. This is not vanity. It is the final stage of power. The stage where no one dares move against you, because in their heart they know to strike you is to strike themselves. And now the crown rests on your head. Cold, heavy, permanent. If this video has lit something inside you, then carry it forward. But don't stop here. Power is a craft, and mastery is forged daily. Comment your phrase, like this video, subscribe to Dark Tactics, and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning of your rise.